The Honourable Diane Evers.
Thank you, Madam President. During 2019, a young man by the name of Reuben Williams worked with me as an intern. His topic was urban stormwater in Perth, strengths, weaknesses and recommendations for future management. His completed report slipped my mind through the COVID year, as I had intended to table it for the government to consider, and I'd like to table that document now. Now, as a member of the Greens, we have a lot of portfolios to go through. I have the water portfolio, and as it's quite broad, I had to focus mostly on the environmental concerns and also on things like the Southern Forest Irrigation Scheme. And I regret that I didn't have time to address the drainage issues within Perth. And I was really pleased to have Reuben in there to help me, because he was able to look at that and pull it all together, so that not only did I have better knowledge of this, but maybe he's come up with something that can feed into the Water Act as it's being put together. So this paper draws on recent news reports, research in WA, other Australian states, and internationally. Mr. Williams also takes in-depth interviews with Bob Humphreys. Bob was the manager of sustainability within Water Corp from 1996 to 2016, so he has quite a bit of responsibility and knows a lot about the Perth system. And this paper points out the challenges, and I quote, "The main issues facing Perth's stormwater management practices are that it affects water quality, ecosystem health, cultural and aesthetic values, financial cost, public health, water conservation, and flood prevention." Now, flood prevention is one of the major issues and concerns for Water Corp. That is what they see that as their prime issue. They've got to keep the water off the land so that we don't have the damage caused by floods. Now, because of the way we've developed, flooding is more and more of an issue because we have so many hard surfaces, so many impervious surfaces, the water runs straight off it, never having a chance to recharge. Makes the job very difficult and very important that we do stop flooding from occurring. But we have to acknowledge also that because of that, we have the environmental harm by the reduced recharge of our aquifers, by the reduced recharge of our soils, by the plants and that. So we have a balance there we have to address when that's what you're doing. And the harm also continues because although we have drainage socks, as I think it was the Shire of Kwinana put in place, or pollutant traps, most of these only separate the big items. Most of these don't get those small items of plastic and other bits of litter. It doesn't get the chemicals that leach through. It's really just something that makes it look better because we don't have the large rubbish going through our drainage system and clogging it up. But it's not really helping in terms of the water quality as it gets through the drains and then into our rivers and streams or out into the ocean. And it also seems to be that many councils are not emptying their drains. Now, the issue with the drains is they fill up with leaf litter and other things, and you might think, well, that's natural, shouldn't be a problem. But when you have it collected in the drains and staying there stagnant, it breaks down, and the nitrogen that's released is another pollutant for our waterways. So there's many issues that we've got going with the drainage. And as I quote from the report, water quality also suffers from the fact that there is not one single regulatory body mandated to manage it. The Water Corporation is responsible for the construction and maintenance of the main arterial drainage network. However, it has no mandate to manage water quality within the drains. Their main goal is flood prevention. Other stakeholders, such as local governments and Main Roads WA, are responsible for a large portion of the water that flows into the arterial drainage network, but have little to no legal responsibility to ensure its quality. And this is something that came up in the estimates hearings, I think, over a number of questions. I think it was annual reports hearings, where I was asking the questions, trying to find out who has responsibility for the quality of that water going through the drains, and it turns out no one does. How can that be? How can we just say, oh no, it doesn't matter, DWER can look after it once it's in the water, Water Corp has to build the drains to get it out, local governments are responsible for making things look pretty for their constituents, but no one has responsibility for the quality of that water. It's unfathomable that we could be at that situation, and I hope that's something that's corrected in the new Water Act. Now, the cost is also outdated. The cost is also significant. We've got outdated infrastructure, we've got a backlog of repairs, high maintenance costs, And then on top of that, we've got the health issues. So we get health warnings saying don't swim in those rivers. They're contaminated, blue-green algae blooms, all sorts of things. Definitely a problem. And then also the poorly maintained drains breed mosquitoes, another health issue. So what we need, one of the things we need that's pointed out in this report, is we've got to look more on infiltration and recharge. We've got to figure out how to get more of that water going back underground into our aquifers to provide for water for the future. Now, this can be done. It's being done around the world. There are numerous examples of it. Mr. Williams does explore the benefits of what's called water-sensitive urban design because it emphasizes the importance of exposed soils to facilitate natural infiltration. Other places in Australia do it. I'd say there's even some councils here that recognize that that's something we need to do. Rather than getting the water to run off the landscape, we need it to sink into it. And it's something that needs to be addressed soon, and I do hope that that is addressed in the Water Act. We've got the aquifers, we've got needs for our own water. These green spaces that have the water infiltrating also provide public space, beautiful public space when the water's not flowing so quickly. And in some places, when I went to Canada as a trip, a parliamentary trip, saw the drains that had been replaced with streams. Rather than trying to get the water off quickly, we're putting the streams back, bringing that beauty, that nature back into the community. So yesterday, we were just looking at drainage there so far, but yesterday I asked a question about the new Water Act, and I understand that there is a water resources reference group. Well, that's great. You've got key community stakeholders on there. They've been consulted over many years. But this act is putting together 6 different acts. There is so much more to do here, and I'm very concerned that this committee may not be broad enough given the range and depth of issues that this legislation will be looking at. So I'll likely put in another question without notice to find out who those members are and who they represent. Because we've got drainage, as already mentioned. We've also got the provision of water. We've got a changing climate. Each time we get light on water, we say, let's put in another desal plant. It's a never-ending situation, but it doesn't have to be like that. If we get recharge going and get that water back underground, we may have more water. So we might be looking at how do we contain that stormwater. It may be that we're going to actually try to support our water needs rather than going through desal. And then also for the country water supply. That's part of this new legislation, and I want to make sure that country residents continue to pay the equitable amount or the same amount as what people in Perth are paying, because there's no reason why they should be paying more. Also, sewage treatment has got to be in this act. A big, big issue all on its own. How are we going to deal with this? We can't have contamination from that going elsewhere, but on the other hand, we could look at it as a resource to clean up for further water use, for recharge, and even some of it to be using back into fertilizers in some areas. So there's much we can be doing there. Licensing. Licensing has been a big issue. It's of great concern. Once this government in the previous term put through the change to make mining and public water supply pay the full costs of licensing, of course agriculture was concerned because we don't want to do anything that's going to stop farmers from being able to farm. We've got to be able to support them because we need that. So licensing for mining, industrial, domestic use, that's all got to be in this act. Agricultural use, of course, it's different, whether it's in the rangelands, the ag region, the southwest, peri-urban, and I don't see how one committee is going to be able to represent all of those different issues. But with agriculture, we've got to look at ground extraction, we've got to look at spring rights, dams, irrigation, and allocations. It can't be like the 1914 Act that said first in, best dressed for how do you allocate water. We just don't have the supplies to continue being able to do that. Maybe it'll be based on the usage. What's a better use than any other use? It might be based on property size. I'm just hoping that in this act it comes forward with good information and with actual legislation that's going to work long-term into the future, that's going to be fair and equitable. And then, of course, the environmental conservation, the Waterways Conservation Act is also going to be a part of this. There's plenty of money going to wetlands and streams, and we're looking at the ocean and trying to conserve it, trying to preserve it. So much to do there. It's a whole issue on itself. So we've got to look onto this. We've got to look at regenerative agriculture again, keep our soils as moist as possible, keeping them holding on to that water. So please, in this new legislation, do not disadvantage the environment. Please assist our food producers to make the best use of what we have to maintain our food security, and please take action urgently to address climate change.